Pistols are some of the most powerful weapons in Borderlands 3. Pretty much every pistol in this game has been insanely powerful at one point or another. For whatever reason, pistols seem to have gotten special treatment in Borderlands 3, and whether you like them or not, there is no denying their power. Hey everyone, I'm Constant Canadian, and this is the top 10 pistols in Borderlands 3. But before we get into the video, I want to know what your favorite pistol in Borderlands 3 is. Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, you might as well subscribe to my channel so that you never miss any of my future content. Coming in at 10th place is the Love Drill. Everyone knows the Love Drill as the unique pistol that you get at the end of the Guns, Love, and Tentacles DLC. But what a lot of people actually don't know is that there is also a legendary form of the Love Drill that drops from Eleanor in the heart, and that's the one I'm talking about here. The Love Drill is manufactured by Jacobs, and it is really good. The Love Drill will always come with a big increase to critical damage, up to 324%. That's already good enough to make this weapon awesome, but on top of that, the Love Drill also has a chance to deal double its damage as shock damage when it hits an enemy, and it restores 2 bullets upon scoring a critical hit. The only real downside to this weapon is that its scope, or lack thereof, is incredibly difficult to aim with, but that is just how high critical hit damage weapons work in Borderlands 3. Next up, in 9th place, is the Tizzy. The Tizzy is manufactured by the COV, and while I'm personally not a huge fan, there is no denying its power. This weapon is kind of a wild card in terms of special effects. When beginning to overheat, the Tizzy's fire rate and magazine size is drastically increased. On top of that, while beginning to overheat, every 6th shot will ricochet in a random direction, and every 12th shot is amped for a bonus 70% damage. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of COV weapons in general, but if you are, then you can get the Tizzy from Arms Race drops, as well as from the Tyrant of Instinct when playing on the True Trial of Instinct. In 8th place, we have the Maggie. The Maggie is manufactured by Jacobs, and for a lot of players, this gun doesn't need much of an introduction, as it's been in more than half of the Borderlands games so far. The Maggie is pretty straightforward. It is a revolver that shoots 6 projectiles at the cost of 1 bullet. It is essentially a Jacobs masher, but better. There was a point that this gun would have been way higher on the list, but there have been so many pistols that came out through DLC in Borderlands 3 that have absolutely power crept the crap out of the Maggie. However, if you want to try the Maggie out for yourself, then it drops from Turnkey Tim at Fort Sunshine in the Floodmore Basin. Coming up next in 7th place is the Hellshock. The Hellshock is manufactured by Malawan and is yet another base game gun that got power crept out of a higher spot on this list. The Hellshock, as I'm sure you guessed by its name, is locked to the fire and shock elements, and it will always shoot 2 projectiles for the price of 1. It also has a special effect that when the bullets hit a surface, they bounce off and switch elements. So if you shoot a shock projectile at the ground, it would bounce and become a fire projectile. This weapon is truly a force to be reckoned with, especially in this game, since most enemies are either flesh, shielded, or both. The Hellshock drops from Vermalingua, who can be fought in the Sprinterlands during and after the side quest, The Homestead Part 2. And in 6th place is the Unkempt Herald. If you played Borderlands 2, then you know what this gun does. This was the gun to farm for in Borderlands 2, as it was incredibly broken and steamrolled pretty much everything in the game. While the Unkempt Herald did return to Borderlands 3, it is not as powerful as it was in Borderlands 2, however, it is still really powerful in Borderlands 3. For those of you who don't know, the Unkempt Herald shoots a row of 3 projectiles that split into 7 projectiles after a certain distance. This gun is powerful, but much like the Lyuda, once you learn the proper distance you need to be away from the target, to land all 7 of the projectiles on a single target, the Unkempt Herald becomes an absolute beast. If you want to use this weapon, it drops from Caber Dowd and Bloodsun Canyon from DLC 3. Just be careful when you farm, as regardless of whether you get the ×3 or the ×4 variant, the projectiles will always split into 7. Next up is the Atlas Replay in 5th place. The Atlas Replay is, you guessed it, manufactured by Atlas. The Atlas Replay is essentially the absolute best of the best that Atlas has to offer in terms of pistols. Its damage is insanely high, and on top of that, its secondary fire mode fires 15 tracker darts that pass through walls to tag enemies. The replay also gets increased fire rate for each individual enemy tagged. Of course, this gun can be held back by the lack of elemental damage inherent in Atlas weapons, but that can always be fixed with anointments. If you want one, it drops from any source within DLC 6, as well as the Diamond Armory and the Sarah of Supremacy if playing the True Trial of Supremacy. In 4th place is the Scorpio. The Scorpio is manufactured by Tedior, and it honestly surprises me so much how insanely good this gun is. The Scorpio used to be very mediocre, but right as I lost hope in it, it got a huge buff of 400% extra damage. This buff made the Scorpio so powerful, as it now had really high damage and fire rate, as well as a decent magazine size. Aside from that, the Scorpio is pretty straightforward, but it is just a really powerful weapon, and it is definitely a good weapon to have in your inventory. The Scorpio drops from Lieutenant Preston in the Tazandir ruins. In third place is the Beacon. The Beacon is manufactured by Malawan, and it is super similar to the Hellshock, but with two significant differences. Rather than being locked to fire and shock, the Beacon can be any of the 5 elements. And the Beacon also has a special effect that creates a Nova anytime you reload. Aside from that though, the Beacon is essentially a better Hellshock. It does a little bit more damage than the Hellshock, and it is all around just a better choice. If you want to use the Beacon for yourself, then you can farm it from Jarek Logan in the Bloodsun Canyon from DLC 3. Coming in at second place is the Light Show. The Light Show is probably one of the most iconic pistols in this game. It is manufactured by Vladoff, and it is super powerful. The Light Show shoots 4 bullets at the cost of 1. And it also has a really tight spread, so hitting all 4 of the projectiles on a single target can't even be considered challenging. On top of this, the Light Show also has an above average fire rate. When you hold down the fire button with this weapon, you essentially shoot a constant circle of damage at whatever you aim at. The Light Show can also come in all of the elements in the game, including non-elemental, and it can drop from Lazodactyl in the Obsidian Forest from DLC 3. And finally, coming in at first place, quite possibly the best pistol in Borderlands 3, the Free Radical. The Free Radical came out of nowhere with its insane power creep. The Free Radical is manufactured by Malawan, and while it is locked to the shock element, that doesn't make any difference for this gun's performance. The Free Radical has insane damage, and has the special effect that when your bullets hit their target, they will spawn a secondary projectile that will home in on the enemy that you hit. The Free Radical's damage is just absolutely crazy, and it can go up to past 100,000. I could sit here and tell you all day about how amazing this gun is, but the best way to know is to try it for yourself. The Free Radical drops from Beef Pliskin in the Karas Canyon from DLC 6. Anyway, I think that's gonna just about wrap up this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see all of you in the next one.